if you were looking to play like a less supernatural kind of ranger, yeah, you're giving up powers and stuff by not playing Fey Wanderer, not playing Gloomstalker. But if you just want to, if you have this fantasy, this ranger, generic ranger fantasy, I think this really delivers on it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's
Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're talking about the rain. I forgot. It's Martial Monday, and today's Martial Monday will be focused on the Ranger Conclave, the Hunter.
hunters are so unbelievably fine. They're like the bread and butter basic ranger. I've seen this option played a lot, and it has never really been like uber disappointing. It does have all the flaws ranger has, but whatever you give it, the Tosh is called and everything glow up. Sure, it is super serviceable. It's nice and simple. I can see a lot of people that are playing this game for the first time having a great time with Hunter.
Sure. All right, we talked about this in the yeah. All right, I was trying to. Did we do Hunter already? No, we just talked about it in that video about the best
Best class.
subclasses for new players. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, what do we got here?
So, quick note that this and Beastmaster don't get the expanded spells that a lot of the modern stuff does, which is a disservice to it, right? Those are the ones that do give you slightly more than this does. But, you still get something every single subclass level. You start with Hunter's Prey. So, third level, you pick one of the following features of your choice, and you'll see there's a pattern with this option. Every single level gives you one of these kinds of choices. Some are give you more choices than others, but out the gate, you get 3 choices. So, you can either pick Colossus Slayer. Your Tenacity can wear down the most potent foes. When you hit a creature with weapon attack, the creature takes D8 bonus damage. If it is below its hit point maximum, you can deal this damage only once per turn. Giant Killer, when a larger or larger creature within 5 feet of you hits or misses you with an attack, you can use your reaction to attack that creature immediately after its attack, provided you can see it. And Horde Breaker, once in each of your turns, when you make a weapon attack, you can make another attack with the same weapon against a different creature that is in 5 feet of the original target and within range of your weapon.
All right, these are
3
all
options.
decent options. I'm hard pressed to choose which one I like best.
I think I'm always going to prefer Horde Breaker because I love being able to make more attacks, and because it doesn't have any cost as far as like needing to do anything other than take the attack action, doesn't take a bonus action or anything like that, and lets me spread my attacks, fire more targets. I like that a lot. That being said, like Colossus Slayer is definitely the easiest. It's just, is it damaged? It takes a bonus D8 damage.
Yeah, the only problem is I don't know that you're always going to have creatures within 5 feet of each other to get consistent use out of Horde Breaker.
That's definitely true. I like the potential and like the thematics of it. It is definitely not guaranteed. That is a huge relevant point. At my tables, it's more often guaranteed because I like bringing lots of monsters that tend to die pretty easily. At tables with 2 or 3 set piece encounter monsters, like 2 big things, 1 big thing, it doesn't do anything at all. So like, there's variance to them. I think Giant Killer is one we haven't touched on yet. I think Giant Killer is also pretty solid. It requires them being large creatures, but if you want to play a melee range ranger, Giant Killer is just a free extra attack against big things. Cool. It'll make you feel like a Giant Killer. Now, is any of this a lot better than like Gloomstalker's 3 abilities and tons of bonus features and extra attack guarantees at the first round of combat? No. It is a lot simpler, though. And if you already are in this position where you're like, wow, I get a million spells, and I don't know how all of these work, and I got extra attack, and I have to like juggle 12 different things with this character, if you don't want your subclass to compound this game's complexity, picking one of these gets 1 extra option. You don't have to think that much more about it. You don't need any extra books. Basic rules is good enough. You will be fine taking this. You will do enough in most tables. It's entirely reasonable. Any of these 3 options, I think.
I feel like Colossus Slayer is going to be the most reliable. You're going to get
Definitely.
the most use out of.
There will not be encounters where you cannot get damage out of Colossus Slayer. I also think his floor is the high or the lowest, in that like it is only ever a D, or sorry, ceiling's the lowest, in that it is only ever a D8 extra damage around, right? Like it doesn't scale with multi-attack or anything. Whereas Horde Breaker can give you another sharpshooter shot, can give you another great weapon master hit, can get you, a lot of extra damage. But again,
that's true.
You need different things. So there's some push or pull to these things. As far as like which one you take, I would recommend, especially if you're taking this as a simple option, take the one that appeals to your playstyle the most, or your not playstyle, aesthetic. What do you want your character to be? Do you want to be a halfling that's taking down giants? Do you want to be, the Swift Quiver Ranger that's just mowing down hordes of goblins? Well, those will clearly point you towards a direction.
You know what? I think I agree with you. I'll probably take Horde Breaker. There's one more thing I like about it. Um, it's always nice to have options that encourage you to attack multiple enemies because, like we say many times, that's not typically optimal. But this takes that a little step further because if you've got one guy over here who's hurt, but two guys over here that are unhurt and standing next to each other, that's, another factor to consider.
It's a big compelling factor to consider
Yeah.
too, right? Like it is a whole extra attack is a lot.
Yeah.
And there is a real payoff for doing it, which I think is pretty neat.
Yep.
7th level gives us defensive tactics, so this is another choice. At 7th level, you pick one of these three. You get Escape the Horde. Makes opportunity attacks against you or maybe with disadvantage. You get multi-attack defense. Whenever a creature hits you with an attack, you get a bonus +4 to your AC against all subsequent attacks made by that creature for the rest of the turn. And you get Steel Will. You advantage on saving throws against being frightened. I think very clearly one of these is much better than the other two. What do you think?
Let me think. All right, multi-attack defense.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I mean, if you're going against creatures with multi-attack, then definitely.
Yeah. I honestly think Escape the Horde is bait. I don't think you ever want to have to take Escape the Horde. Literally ever.
I don't know. All right, see.
How many opportunity attacks do you regularly take, Bob?
Well, none. Well, I mean, not many, but I'm thinking about trying to use this intentionally. Like,
Oh,
all right, what?
no, go
You're
ahead.
making that face. All right. I want I want to run in there, slap somebody around, run away, just begging them to use their reaction to opportunity attack me because my friend is going to do something to them that would I want to eat their reactions, right? I don't know. I can't think of an example of something my friend is going to do that them having a reaction would be beneficial, but
The
I'm sure
one
there's
that
something.
the one that jumps to my mind would be Counterspell, but you can bet your ass the wizard isn't making an opportunity attack with his quarterstaff whenever you run up to him. Yeah. I think in reality, those opportunity attacks don't matter, and eating those reactions, what's actually happening is you're turning on reactions that usually weren't turned on. Because this game is not reactive. The reactions of this game aren't great. A lot of monsters lack great reactions. I think one of the big things I would want out of an update for this edition is way more things with way more reactions.
Yeah.
It makes combat a lot more dynamic. As it currently stands, this gives them a thing to do. Opportunity attacks are one of the worst, least efficient things you can do in combat. If you ever have to give something an opportunity attack, you are giving it a free action to hit you. You want to keep that off at all costs. Which means just don't take Escape the Horde because.
Well, I mean, I brought that up not just to be ridiculous, but I have been in situations myself when I used a reaction and that same turn, I wish I still had my reaction to use on something better.
I think there's a difference in player reaction and monster reactions.
Yeah.
And monsters are going to typically die more than players. And in that instance, that means when you're losing more fights, they're not retreating. You're, as the player, not retreating that much.
Yeah.
I would also say this. It is no defense most encounters. It gives you 0 boon in most encounters on most kinds of characters. You won't expect to take an opportunity attack every encounter, and when it does come up, it isn't even that relevant. It's a disadvantage on one attack roll.
Yeah.
I don't see that being at all relevant. Steel Will might be worse just because of the frightened condition might be more narrow, but multi-attack defense at least, especially towards the upper tiers, +4 AC to a subsequent hit means on the rangers that are built to take damage in the front line, this is a genuine massive boon. Something hits you one time or attacks you one time. Sorry, it has to hit you one time. Your AC jumps from like 18 to 22.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's a free shield for all subsequent attacks after you take a single hit from a monster for that monster. So against things with 2 or 3 attacks, it is very much so really improving your defenses. Now, it's still not amazing. A lot of monsters aren't making 2 attack rolls against you a turn, in which case it's still kind of ooh. But compared to Steel Will and Escape the Horde, I do think you will regularly see multi-attack defense come up in like 9th plus level encounters.
Yeah, you're probably right. I still feel like there's something to milk and Escape the Horde, but probably not. I probably just having creatures attack me for absolutely
For
no
no
reason.
reason. None
Yes.
whatsoever. That's why was whenever you're like, oh, I'm gonna make creatures use their opportunity attacks on me. I was like, we are going down a dark path. There's no returning from which we came. And I say multi-attack defense is like leagues better than the rest of these two. I want to say that it still is not good. 7th level is definitely the weakest feature that I think this option gets, and it is kind of a dark place for Hunter to Ranger. But again, it is simple. 11th level though, we get a little bit of an upswing. We get multi-attack. It's just called multi-attack. That's the name of the feature. At 11th level, you gain one of the following features of your choice. You get to pick from 2. You get either Volley or Whirlwind Attack. Volley says you could use your action to make a ranged attack against any number of creatures within 10 feet of a point you can see within your weapon's range. You must have ammunition for each target as normal, and you make a separate attack for each target. Cool. And you also get Whirlwind Attack. You could use your action to make a melee attack against any number of creatures within 5 feet of you with a separate attack roll for each target. Cool.
All right. Wait, whoa. Use your action to make range attack against any number of creatures within 10 feet of a point you can see. That's
Sweet.
so you're just like taking a handful of arrows and
yeah.
All right. That's all.
No.
I mean, that could be a lot of attacks.
It could be. It also could be 2.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, this is not necessarily going to be amazing. I kind of hate that this is a non-bow with Whirlwind Attack because, like, if there's 3 things, you only have 3 attacks anyway. This is still like, oh, I could either Whirlwind Attack or Volley and at the same type of total attacks. Like, that's not amazing. But I think there'll be sometimes you hit 4 things with this and you go, oh, this is going to be sweet. Whirlwind Attack is kind of the same deal. Sometimes you'll be surrounded by 4 creatures. You'll be like, oh, it's on. Cha-cha-cha-cha.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got Whirlwind Attack, I think you're going to be charging into a bunch of creatures to use it. At least I would be. That might be irresponsible, but this is the kind of ability I really want to make use of.
Oh, agreed. Also, I misspoke. I have just reread Horde Breaker, and it says once on each of your turns when you make a weapon attack. It doesn't say with the attack action. So this does work with both. If you have Horde Breaker and either of these, you get the extra attack as part of that attack. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So if you volley something, one thing's going to hit twice if they're close enough together. Cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. Love that. Yeah, I like both these features a lot. They're definitely narrow still. Like, oh, against lots of things, you get a better attack option. I guess one thing you're still just like firing 2 shots at it. Sure. Attacking it with great short. Sure. But like, those are both, I think, meaningful upgrades to a character sheet. I could see this basically just says, are you melee arranged? And then you pick whichever one you are, and you go with that one.
If I'm playing Hunter, like, this is what I'm aspiring to.
Yeah, agreed. I want to be making volleys. I want to be making whirlwind attacks with a great sword. Like, I want to do a lot of attacking.
Yeah.
We end at 15th level with superior hunter defense. So 15th level, you pick one of these 3. You get evasion, stand against the tide, or uncanny dodge. 2 of these names sound familiar because they're a feature on some of the classes. So evasion, whenever you are subject to an effect, such as a red dragon's fiery breath or lightning bolt spell that allows you to make a dexterity saving throw to only take half damage, you instead take no damage if you succeed on the saving throw, and only half if you fail.
All right, that definitely sounds familiar.
We got stand against the tide. When a hostile creature misses you with a melee attack, you can use your reaction to force the creature to repeat the same attack against another creature other than itself of your choice. I love this thing. I love this feature. It's not good, but I love it. And then we got uncanny dodge. Whenever an attacker you can see hits you with an attack, you use your reaction to have the attack's damage against you. That's also just super fine.
Yeah. All right. I'm trying to envision what stand against the tide is supposed. What's supposed to be happening there?
Something's attacking you with a giant club.
Yes.
You duck and it hits their neighbor in the nuts.
Okay. All right. I see.
Yeah.
All right. I feel like that would work. That could work well for someone with whirlwind attack, who's just, diving into huge throngs of people.
Absolutely.
Enemies. Yeah.
I think what ends up happening whenever you play this option is kind of gets 2 clear pipelines. You get the melee ranger and the ranged ranger, and most of them are taking horde breaker, and most of them are looking to be, if you're melee, you care about the defenses, and if you're ranged, you just don't. And like, you kind of miss out on a 7th, 15 level feature if you're ranged, because you don't
15.
Yeah, sorry, 15th level and 7th level feature, both those. You don't care about the defensive options that much on the ranged rangers, I don't think, comparatively to the melee rangers who want bonuses to their defense. which this gives you bonuses to your defense as a melee ranger, which is useful. I also like the play pattern of an uncanny dodge with the multi-attack defense, because the first thing that hits you, your reaction have the damage plus 4 AC to any other subsequent attacks that turn. Huh? Huh?
Yeah.
That sounds pretty decent, right? If you're taking 3 attacks, seems okay to me, especially if your job is to be the frontline party tank. I can see that being a real combo to pull together here.
Yeah, I like this this conclave. I like this subclass. For for a ranged ranger, it gives you some meaningful upgrades, which I appreciate. But for a melee ranger, it gives you a lot.
This, I think, is, I wouldn't say the best melee ranger option, because again, it is light in features. Like,
Yeah,
comparing this to Horizon Walk, comparing this to Gloomstalker, you go, okay, this does not get nearly as much, and I don't think the stuff it gets is as applicable to those options. You can always use Gloomstalker's first extra attack each turn, or each combat. You can always use the bonus D4 damage from Horizon Walker, I think is the one, or Fey Wanderer, one of those two.
Fey Wanderer, I think.
We talked about
Fey
Drake Warden.
Wanderer. Well, we haven't done Drake Warden yet, but we talked about it in the other video. What we're saying?
Well, like that and Beastmaster both get pets. Those are
Yeah.
really high utility. Those are really powerful abilities. I do think this is one of the weaker ranger options. I want to make that pretty clear. As a floor, though, I think this is a pretty solid. It's a standard, simple, digestible ranger option. It delivers the volley fantasy very well. Of, oh, I would expect to be able to shoot a bunch of arrows at a group of things. This does that. It does the ranger that's, you know, a tracker with a bounty hunter kind of mentality with a longsword or a greatsword charging into a pool of orcs and just chopping them to pieces. That sounds sweet. And this does that. It delivers on that fantasy. Its raw power, I think, is a lot lower than most of the other options that we've talked about here. Would you agree?
I do agree, but for for a person who values, like you keep making fun of me for wanting to always play humans and half elves and something, but if you were looking to play like a less supernatural kind of ranger, yeah, you're giving up powers and stuff by not playing Fey Wanderer, not playing Gloomstalker. But if you just want to, if you have this fantasy, this generic ranger fantasy, I think this really delivers on it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's, again, why I recommended it in the best ranger class or subclasses for the
Yeah.
newer player, right? This is bog standard. You will feel like a cool ranger doing World 1 attack, doing Colossal Slayer, where you get the bonus damage, doing even like Giant Killer, getting a free attack against big things. You will feel like the Titan Slayer, the Dragon Slayer, right?
Mm.
This delivers on the fantasies that it offers in a very clean, simple, digestible way. You don't ever have to revisit the book once you pick the feature. You just write it on your character sheet and move right on. There's no bookkeeping. There's no hassle. There's no pets. You just get what's on the sheet. You do the cool thing. Seems like a fine time.
Yeah. Yeah, for the not for power, but for the reasons you just said, I think I'm going to give this one a B.
I'm going to give it a solid C. It is definitely weak.
Yeah, these grades don't mean anything.
Correct.
All right.
If you love this option, that's amazing. Play it. If it's an A in your heart, that's what matters. If it's an F in your heart because it does not give you close to what any other options that give you, that's reasonable too. Sure. Grade it however you see fit. But in terms of who I think this has value for, I would say largely newer players. I think if the moment you want anything else on your character sheet, the moment you understand the full intricacies of spellcasting and you start to like ask more from your subclasses, this becomes a very clearly, oh, not great.
Well, see, if I was making a ranger character, I'd probably go with Fey Wanderer or Gloomstalker. But if the DM just handed me a sheet and said, "Here, you're a hunter ranger," I think I'd have a fun time with it.
Oh, 100% agreed.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was the hunter. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining and watching. And let us know what you think down in the comments below. What do you think about the hunter? Have you played a hunter? Did you have a good time? Whatever. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.